Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our YouTube channel, the place where stories lull you into peaceful and profound dreams. Every night, we embark on enchanting tales together, helping you relax, release your fatigue, and drift into a gentle sleep. Sleep is not just a time for rest. It's a journey that allows your mind to unwind, ready to explore mysterious and meaningful stories. Tonight, we will dive into a special story, a haunting and thought-provoking chapter of history. Oppenheimer, the man who brought the monster, the atomic bomb, to Earth. Let's uncover the story of the man who forever changed the world with his terrifying invention and the mysteries behind it. Now relax, close your eyes, and enjoy this deeply emotional storytelling session. Wishing you a restful sleep and a wonderful journey with tonight's story. On an ordinary day in Hiroshima, the people of one of Japan's most bustling industrial cities were busy preparing for a new workday. It was 8:15 a.m. on August 6, 1945. Nothing out of the ordinary. That is, until a U.S. strategic bomber glided across the city's sky. From an altitude of 9,400 meters, a large black object fell and detonated 580 meters above the ground. A second sun was born, a colossal fireball, with temperatures even hotter than a real sun, expanded to a radius of 2 kilometers from the explosion's epicenter. Everything within that 2-kilometer radius turned to nothingness, vanishing without a trace. Houses, vehicles, air, water, money, animals, and people all became nothing. At that moment, Hiroshima's sky lost its color, as no one could see anything but the terrifying light from the bomb's explosion. It instantly caused temporary blindness for all. But that wasn't the most frightening part. The bomb's blast tore through the air, generating scorching winds and heat waves so intense they obliterated everything within a radius of over 10 kilometers. Water boiled and evaporated. Houses and trees burned to ashes, and even the water in human bodies vanished in an instant. A massive shock wave, traveling faster than the speed of sound, flattened the city into a wasteland. All of this created the image of a mushroom cloud, the symbol of this devastation. And the man who brought this monster to the world is here, Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, born on April 22, 1904, into a Jewish family. His father, Julius Oppenheimer, was a wealthy textile importer who immigrated from Germany to the United States in 1888. His mother, Ella Friedman, was a painter. She arrived in America with nothing, no degree, no knowledge of English. He also had a younger brother named Frank, who later became a physicist and assisted him greatly in his work. In the society of that time, the Oppenheimer family was considered middle class and well off. In 1912, the family moved into an apartment on the 11th floor of a building at 155 Riverside Drive, Manhattan, a neighborhood renowned for its luxurious villas and modern homes. Moreover, the family owned an impressive art collection, including works by Pablo Picasso, Edouard Vuillard, and at least 3 original paintings by Vincent van Gogh. With a solid family background and exceptional intelligence, it's no surprise that Oppenheimer attended a prestigious school. He was a versatile student, interested in literature, English, and French, and particularly passionate about mineralogy. He completed grades 3 and 4 in just 1 year and skipped half of grade 8. By his final year of high school, Oppenheimer, with his brilliant mind, became fascinated with chemistry and resolved to pursue it. But the heavens don't grant anyone everything. Despite his genius, Oppenheimer entered Harvard's chemistry program a year late, at age 18, due to colitis contracted while surveying minerals during a family summer vacation in Joachimsthal. Besides his chemistry major, Harvard's requirements also mandated studying history, literature, philosophy, or mathematics. He made up for his late admission by taking 6 courses per semester and was admitted to the Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society in his first year. He was also accepted to audit postgraduate physics courses based on his self-study results, meaning he could skip basic courses and dive straight into advanced ones. And that's where the legend was born. During one course taught by a certain professor, physics found Oppenheimer in a serendipitous way. In 1924, Oppenheimer was accepted into Christ's College at the University of Cambridge. He wrote to Ernest Rutherford, requesting to work at the Cavendish Laboratory. Bridgman wrote a recommendation letter stating that Oppenheimer's clumsiness in the lab made it clear his strength lay not in experimental work, but in theoretical physics. Tall and lanky, a heavy smoker who often skipped meals during periods of intense focus, Oppenheimer frequently worried his friends due to his self-destructive tendencies. A shocking incident occurred when Oppenheimer took a break in Paris to visit his friend Francis Ferguson. Noticing Oppenheimer's poor health, Ferguson, in an attempt to cheer him up, shared that he was about to marry his girlfriend, Frances Keeley. Oppenheimer didn't take the news calmly. He lunged at Ferguson, attempting to strangle him, though Ferguson easily pushed his friend away. The incident led him to believe Oppenheimer had serious psychological issues. Throughout his life, Oppenheimer suffered recurring bouts of depression, once telling his brother, "I need physics more than friends." After a grueling period of study and training, in March 1927, at age 23, Oppenheimer earned his Ph.D. He published numerous papers, making significant contributions to the emerging field of quantum mechanics. Like many others, after completing his studies, Oppenheimer embarked on a career in teaching and deeper research. Perhaps his most critical contribution to teaching was his keen ability to identify important problems, reflected in his choice of research topics. He lived with those problems, striving to find solutions, and shared his interests with his research group. At his peak, Oppenheimer led a group of about 8 to 10 graduate students and around 6 postdoctoral researchers. He met with them daily in his office, discussing each student's research progress. They could cover quantum dynamics, cosmic rays, electron pair production, and nuclear physics in a single afternoon. Together, Oppenheimer made significant discoveries in theoretical astrophysics, particularly in general relativity and nuclear theory, nuclear physics spectroscopy, and quantum field theory, extending these into quantum electrodynamics. The mathematical formalism of relativistic quantum mechanics also piqued his interest, though he remained skeptical of its feasibility. His work foreshadowed many later discoveries, including significant contributions to the theory of cosmic ray showers and the beginnings of what would later describe quantum tunneling. Additionally, Oppenheimer conducted countless scientific research projects across various fields throughout his life. Yet, he would never be remembered for these great scientific contributions, but for this one thing. Flash back to the mid-20th century, when World War II was at its most intense. On October 6, 1939, a letter was placed on the desk of the U.S. President. The letter warned that Nazi Germany had made breakthroughs in nuclear research, which would lead to what it described as a new type of bomb with extreme destructive power. It was signed, "Yours sincerely, Albert Einstein." Of course, Einstein wasn't a spy, but he had friends who had been monitoring this news for some time. In December 1938, two German scientists discovered that uranium atoms could be split into two radioactive fragments. Subsequently, two American scientists, Enrico Fermi and Leo Szilard, believed this discovery could be used to create an atomic bomb with destructive power unlike anything the world had ever seen. Fermi and Szilard began efforts to build their own nuclear reactor, with only the resources of Columbia University to support them. But a news report alarmed Szilard. Germany had seized uranium mines in Czechoslovakia and banned the Czech government from selling uranium to anyone but Nazi Germany. Even more concerning, Szilard learned that Nazi Germany was attempting to build its own atomic bomb. However, Szilard felt he lacked the clout to convince the president and needed a more prominent figure. He arranged a meeting with Einstein, shared his concerns, and persuaded him to sign the letter to the president. The letter was then passed Alexander Sachs, an economist and scientist who was a friend of President Roosevelt, to ensure it wouldn't get lost. Ultimately, Roosevelt agreed to meet Sachs. After the meeting, the president struggled to grasp the issue's scope, but concluded, "Your job from now on is to ensure Nazi Germany doesn't blow up America." Roosevelt then summoned Major General Edwin M. Watson, his senior aide, handed over the documents, and ordered the launch of a project codenamed Manhattan. "This requires action," the president said. In 1939, the U.S. established agencies to initiate the Manhattan Project, starting with the Advisory Committee on Uranium. Based on the committee's findings, the U.S. government began funding research by Fermi and Szilard at Columbia University, focusing on radioactive isotope separation or uranium enrichment and nuclear chain reactions. After the Manhattan Project was launched in May 1942, the chairman of the National Defense Research Committee, who had taught Oppenheimer at Harvard, invited him to work on fast neutron calculations, a task at which Oppenheimer excelled. He earned the nickname the coordinator of rapid rupture, referring to propagation of a fast neutron chain reaction in an atomic bomb from his colleagues. At this point, he was involved in the project, but not yet a central figure determining its success or failure. In June 1942, the U.S. Army established the Manhattan Project facilities to handle the atomic bomb project, transferring responsibility from the Office of Scientific Research and Development to the military. Oppenheimer's role shifted when General Leslie Groves was appointed to lead the program, known as the Manhattan Project. Groves chose Oppenheimer to head the project's secret weapons laboratory, a decision that surprised many, as Oppenheimer was not politically aligned with conservative faction and had no experience leading a major project. Groves himself had reservations, noting that Oppenheimer lacked a Nobel Prize, questioning how he could command the necessary authority. However, Groves was impressed by Oppenheimer's grasp of the practical aspects of designing and building an atomic bomb and his broad knowledge across multiple fields. As a military engineer, Groves knew these qualities were essential for a multidisciplinary project involving not just physics, but also chemistry, metallurgy, ordnance, and engineering. Groves also saw in Oppenheimer something others missed: an overwhelming ambition. He believed this would provide the drive needed to push the project to success. The appointment was widely regarded as a stroke of genius by Groves, who was not typically considered a genius himself. At the time, the U.S. wasn't the only nation pursuing a nuclear bomb program. In the U.K., two British scientists of German origin, Rudolf Peales and Otto Frisch, were diligently working to outpace their German counterparts in the race to build an atomic bomb. Oppenheimer and Groves decided that, for security and coherence, they needed a centralized, secret laboratory in a remote location. While searching for such a site, in late 1942, Oppenheimer was drawn to New Mexico, not far from his family's ranch. After multiple surveys and evaluations, the chosen site was a private boys' school called the Los Alamos Ranch School. To ensure secrecy, the Los Alamos Laboratory was built on the school's grounds, utilizing its existing buildings while urgently constructing additional ones. There, Oppenheimer assembled a team of the era's top physicists, whom he called the luminaries. Security at Los Alamos was tightened significantly. Even scientists whose letters sparked the Manhattan Project, like Einstein and Szilard, were barred from entry. Szilard was granted limited access to the Los Alamos test site, but Groves repeatedly tried to restrict his role. As a German citizen and a pacifist, Szilard raised deep concerns. Groves demanded Szillard's removal from the team multiple times, and when these requests were not approved, the FBI trailed Szilard everywhere. Einstein was also excluded, deemed unsuitable for handling top-secret defense matters. A military report stated, "Professor Einstein is a person with radical views and ties to extreme communist activities." Even the press was prohibited from reporting on nuclear science in general. Oppenheimer initially struggled with organizing large teams, but quickly mastered large-scale management. After moving to the site, he was noted for his ability to grasp all scientific aspects of the project and his efforts to manage the inevitable cultural conflicts between scientists and the military. As a scientific manager, he was an idol to his fellow scientists, almost a symbol of their pursuit. Oppenheimer led these efforts, both theoretical and experimental, in the truest sense. His ability to quickly grasp the essence of any topic was a decisive factor. He could master the critical details of every part of the work. Oppenheimer didn't command from a control room. He was present at every critical step in the lab or conference room, where new effects were measured or new ideas took shape. Not one to generate many ideas himself. His primary influence came from something else. His constant high-intensity presence created a sense of direct involvement for all colleagues. This fostered a unique atmosphere of enthusiasm and challenge that permeated the project's duration. After 6 years of lab research, the Manhattan Project team finally built what they believed was an effective nuclear weapon. The time had come to test it. On July 16, 1945, a nuclear bomb named Gadget was transported to the Jornada del Muerto Desert, about 56 kilometers southeast of the small town of Socorro, New Mexico. To guard against unforeseen accidents, the bomb was placed inside a 210-ton steel vessel with walls nearly 36 centimeters thick. If the test failed, Groves and Oppenheimer believed they could safely recover plutonium inside. When detonated, Gadget unleashed the equivalent of 20,000 tons of TNT, forming a massive fireball and a mushroom cloud over 12 kilometers high. The results far exceeded the scientists' expectations, ushering in the atomic age. As Project Director J. Robert Oppenheimer noted, "The world is no longer the same." Just 30 days after the test, the bomb was deployed. On August 6, 1945, the first atomic bomb, Little Boy, was dropped on Hiroshima. Less than 3 days later, the second atomic bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki, Japan. For Groves, dropping the bombs on Japan was a victory. However, Not everyone agreed. Among the Manhattan Project scientists, many regretted their actions, including Oppenheimer. The atomic bomb made the world worse, Oppenheimer confided. During the Cold War, he worked tirelessly to end the nuclear arms race for the sake of peace. His efforts were so intense that he was investigated by the U.S. House Un-American Activities Committee and accused of communist sympathies. One thing is certain: the Manhattan Project changed the world forever. In 1949, Soviet scientists, using obtained data, developed a nuclear bomb modeled after the one dropped on Nagasaki. After World War II, the U.S. established the Atomic Energy Commission to oversee research efforts to apply Manhattan Project technologies to other fields. In 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson ended the government's monopoly on nuclear energy by allowing private ownership of nuclear materials. Since then, the nuclear fission technology perfected by Manhattan Project scientists has become the foundation for developing nuclear reactors, nuclear power plants, and other innovations, notably in medical imaging systems like MRI machines and radiation therapy for various cancers. As of now, 9 countries are believed to possess nuclear weapons. Yet, among those 9, Germany is notably absent. Isn't that strange? Wasn't Germany the early leader, the one that prompted the U.S. to launch the Manhattan Project without delay? Why couldn't Germany possess nuclear weapons? Returning to World War II, German scientists were the first to begin building an experimental nuclear reactor. However, their efforts to develop such a weapon were unsuccessful, despite being the ones who discovered the catalyst for future nuclear fission research. By 1939, intelligence reports confirmed Germany led the race to develop an atomic bomb. Germany was the birthplace of nuclear fission research, with Otto Hahn and Fritz Stresemann achieving success in 1938. Though Hitler's racial purges cost Germany some top Jewish scientists, it still had a robust cadre of talented researchers. After occupying Czechoslovakia in 1939, Germany seized uranium mines in Joachimsthal. Further expansions across Western Europe gave Hitler access to hundreds of tons of uranium ore in Belgium, the world's only heavy water plant in Norway at the time, and particle accelerators in France. These were critical for developing nuclear weapons, resources Germany itself hadn't yet built. Despite technical challenges, Germany constructed a nuclear reactor in Berlin, installed near Stuttgart, accumulating enough plutonium for a bomb. Facing these threats, the Allies launched a prolonged, large-scale campaign to thwart Hitler's nuclear program. In November 1942, a special forces team deployed via gliders attempted to destroy the heavy water plant in Norway. Though not entirely successful, it caused some damage to the Nazi effort. The British compiled a list of targets linked to Germany's nuclear program for potential attacks. In late 1943, the British Air Force used incendiary bombs to destroy the Degussa uranium refinery. In September 1944, a ferry carrying heavy water from Norway to Germany was sunk. However, the primary reason for Hitler's lag in the nuclear arms race, despite an early start, stemmed from his investment and management policies. One physicist who worked on Germany's nuclear program was Werner Heisenberg, the creator of quantum mechanics and a Nobel Prize winner. Unlike the U.S. scientists under the unified leadership of Oppenheimer and Groves in the Manhattan Project, German nuclear experts were split into 3 groups with separate experiments, code-named after their research cities, Berlin, Gotha, and Leipzig. Though they began work 12 years earlier, Their progress in building a nuclear reactor was much slower, largely due to competition for scarce resources, intense rivalry among research groups, and inefficient management. In the winter of 1944, as Allied forces advanced into Germany, Heisenberg and his colleagues made desperate efforts to achieve criticality in their reactor. Fearing Berlin's defeat, they hoped to preserve the prestige of their scientific community by achieving a chain reaction. Notably, at the time, Germans were unaware of the significant successes of the Manhattan Project. Heisenberg's team relocated to southern Germany, focusing on a secret cave beneath a castle in Hagelock. There, they conducted a final experiment codenamed B8. The Nobel-winning German scientist detailed this test in his 1953 nuclear physics book. They used 664 uranium cubes, suspended on aircraft cables, and submerged in a heavy water well lined with graphite. Despite this progress, German scientists couldn't achieve criticality. To illustrate, let me show you this. A uranium cube displayed at the University of Maryland in 2013. It's a 5-centimeter cube weighing 2.2 kilograms, one of the materials used in Nazi Germany's experiments. Studies show these were only initial successes for German scientists at the time. Germany wasn't as close to a nuclear weapon as thought. Gamma spectroscopy results indicate the cube's isotopic composition was similar to natural uranium, neither depleted nor enriched, and lacked fission products like cesium-137. How did the Americans obtain this? Simple, they were the victors. In 1944, as U.S. forces advanced into German-occupied territories, General Leslie Groves launched Operation Alsos to gather intelligence on German scientific research, particularly uranium studies. Samuel Goudsmit, who later founded the journal Physical Review Letters, led the American scientists in this operation. In April 1945, the Alsos team reached Hagerloch, where German physicists, including Heisenberg, were detained and interrogated. This revealed that as the Allies closed in on southern Germany, the Nazis dismantled their experimental reactor, burying uranium cubes in a nearby field and hiding heavy water in barrels and restrooms. As a result, 659 uranium cubes were unearthed, along with heavy water, and shipped to Paris, then the U.S. A key goal was to prevent the Soviet Union from using these materials for its nuclear program. Contrary to earlier assumptions that German scientists failed to build a viable reactor due to uranium shortages, recently declassified documents show Nazi Germany had more uranium cubes than previously thought. Had they concentrated an additional 50% of uranium at the test reactor, the Germans could have reached criticality. Hitler's failure stemmed from dispersing resources rather than consolidating them. Fortunately, Nazi Germany didn't amass enough uranium as Heisenberg required. Despite U.S. efforts, some uranium cubes reached the black market and the Soviet Union. A few were secretly sent to the U.S., ending up with private collectors, including Robert Neininger, who managed assets at the Manhattan Project, where European uranium was sent. Today, we still live in the nuclear age. We don't know when it will end, but I'm certain that day will also mark the world's end. What's your view on Oppenheimer and nuclear weapons, the ultimate weapon humanity created? I hope they'll think carefully before pressing that detonation button. Thank you for joining us in this haunting story of Oppenheimer, the man who brought the monster of the atomic bomb to Earth tonight. I hope these tales have guided you into a reflective yet relaxing journey, easing your mind into sleep. Don't forget to relax, breathe deeply, and let your dreams carry you to peaceful realms. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell to catch our next bedtime stories. Wishing you a restful sleep, and see you in the next episodes. Good night, everyone.